Welcome to Fantasy Football Aces. It's your boy, William Wolf. I'm back. And it's Sunday, week 12, baby. Da-da-da-da-da. Nothing like that Celsius in the morning before Sunday football. No guests today. I'm playing John, a.k.a. Hurt Thielens. Showed a lot of the matchup Friday when I was live. Hurt Thielens is 5-6 on the season. I played him the first week of the year, so the schedule's turned. Obviously, we're on week 12, so we played all 11 opponents, and now we're on to week 12. We went 7-4 against the 11 opponents. Should have been 8-3. We should be in a bye situation right now at 8-3. But lost that game against Still Legit, actually. The reason why he is 8-3 and I'm 7-4 in that matchup, I should have won. Huge favorite. Stafford got hurt in that game. And Dallas had a defensive touchdown. It was just a domino perfect effect leading to an L, which shouldn't have happened. I mean, I say domino because Fields got hurt before that a couple weeks prior, so Stafford shouldn't even have been in my lineup. Then I was high on him, playing him with thinking he could have a big season with Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, and that just hasn't worked out. Cooper Kupp really just isn't the same guy that we kind of all thought he could be. And yeah, in that game, he had Dallas's defense. I had Stafford. To be honest with you, and looking back on it in hindsight, I would have started a different quarterback in that situation just to avoid the catastrophic events that could lead to me losing, which inevitably ended up happening. I mean, I could have easily started a different quarterback there to just take that variable out of the equation. I know it's easy to say in hindsight, but it actually makes a lot of sense to me in my brain right now. Like, I would have definitely rather have took that variable out and just started a different quarterback. And you can't have that domino effect of just the defense dominating Stafford and him leading to a victory, which it happened. They hurt him and took an L. So anyways, long story short, 7-4. Yeah, man. Hurt Thielens, he said he's sick. He's hurt. I'm hurt. I think he's the defending champ. I think that personally he just doesn't want to be on the podcast because he's 5-6. He's not eliminated from the playoffs yet. He's actually definitely got a chance still, but he needs a lot to go his way. It's just not looking good, especially with the slow start against me, which he's well aware of, obviously. But definitely a very, very slow start against me here. Had a huge day from Pollard, Mostert, and Miami's defense. St. Brown had a solid day. So I'm on one of those kind of paths right now to have, a extremely high score. Like, this is the kind of lineup right now. It's in position to score 200 points. It could very well happen. Swift is in prime position to have a huge game against Buffalo, in my opinion. Hopkins, the kicker for Cleveland, I think he'll definitely have a decent day. He's been the best kicker in fantasy all year. I think he'll have 10 points for sure. Taysom Hill, I personally think that he's going to be massive down the stretch here for New Orleans. If I'm correct in that, he should average over 10 points a week here on out. So very optimistic about him. And then Puka Nacua against Arizona, he's in a slam spot. Kupp coming back kind of hurts his stock a little bit today, but I think that Kupp coming back he's still going to be a little bit hobbled, I believe. I don't think, I could be wrong. He could be 100%, but I just think that Puka will be the lead target for Stafford today. I would say he goes, 13 targets today, 9 catches for 88 yards and a touchdown. So that's solid. And then Nico, man, in my opinion, Nico's overdue for a buck 30, buck 40 game and a touchdown. He is too damn good. He is just flying way under the radar this year, man. Like I hyped him up big time on the cast. Like, so if anybody fucks with me, then they probably like obviously are a little bit higher on Nico than the public is. But to me, for my money, when I even watched him last week, he's amazing, man. CJ threw a ball to him that he jumped up like he threw a high ball to him. He's 6'4". It was like a post route. It was a big play. He caught it for like 20 something yards. He got hit. He kind of flipped on his back. Just an incredible catch. It's one of those kind of plays that like opens your eyes and like, and I would hope it's open CJ's eyes and like, dude, we can get him the ball anytime we want to. Like, why are we not throwing more like 50-yard deep balls to this guy? Like, I feel like he'll jump over everybody and catch the ball in the end zone for a touchdown. I'm talking about like if he's one-on-one, like let's try it. CJ definitely favors Tank Dell more. That's his boy. That's his, like, they got their little dance together. He handpicked them. They're both rookies. I mean, that's his dude. Like, so like to me, it's kind of turned into Tank Dell being the number one receiver on this team, Nico being the number two, but they complement each other so well. One's a big, fast dude who can dominate on slants routes. He can dominate one-on-ones. He doesn't need space. You can just throw it in his proximity and he's going to make a catch. Where Tank Dell, on the other hand, is just a really quick, fast dude who's going to get separation and get open. I think they complement each other well. I think that there's going to be big days from Nico and big days from Tank. Similarly to the way A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith operate. I just think it's Nico's day, man. I really do. I think Nico's going to ball out today, dude. I just have a feeling that, like, this lineup this week, for me, I believe that I score, a buck 70, buck 80 this week. And it gets me back in prime position to, in the points category, to get a bye down the stretch here. I think my team's hitting on all cylinders right now. I have some really tough matchups in week 14 and 15, along with week 13, Justin Fields being on his bye, which I haven't even spoken about yet. Justin Fields on Monday Night Football, he's going to dominate. I think 4 touchdowns total for him, maybe 2 rushing, 2 passing, or 3 passing, 1 rushing, maybe 3 rushing, 1 passing. Who knows? I think he accounts for 4 touchdowns this weekend, though, or Monday, I should say. I don't see any way possible that Justin doesn't have a good day. I just don't. I think that he dominates the rest of the year. Week 15, week 15, he plays Cleveland on the road. That would be the one spot that I'd be nervous about. And I am nervous about that, especially because it's a playoff matchup. But he's going to dominate, man. He rushed for 100 plus yards this past week on like 16 rushes. Like 9 or 10 of those were designed. They're unleashing him right now. You can tell he's hungry. He wants to play for his job. The Bears are more than likely going to have the number 1 pick and another top 10 pick, depending on how they finish the season with their wins and losses. And I believe that he wants to fight for his job. I think if you're Ryan Poles, that you fire the head coach, you fire the whole staff, you try to bring in Ben Johnson from Detroit, the offensive coordinator. You try to bring in Jim Harbaugh from Michigan, or you try to, because he did great with Colin Kaepernick, by the way. Well, how would he do with Fields? Turn that defense around and run a great scheme with Justin Fields, similarly to the way he did with Colin Kaepernick when they went to the Super Bowl. Or you bring in, I don't vote for this one, but Eric the Enemy from Washington. Um, I don't vote for that one because he's going to bring in a system that's similar to Kansas City. And Sam Howell, he's doing well in that system, but I don't think that's the system I want for Justin Fields. And I think Eric the Enemy, he's one of those kind of guys that's going to come in and he wants to implement his system to whatever personnel he has. In other words, he's not going to adjust his adjust his system based on the personnel. So I wouldn't hire him personally. I would stay away from him. I would more want to bring in a guy who's going to cater to the weapons around us. We draft Marvin Harrison Jr., and you got Marvin, you got DJ Moore, you got Justin Fields. Draft another offensive lineman, or just draft a high impact defensive player and just build that defense up. Because I think with Marvin and DJ Moore, you have more than enough weapons with Justin Fields. I would try to build that offensive line up a little bit more. You want them to be elite. You want them to be a top 10 offensive line. So me personally, I'm drafting a tackle. I'm drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. And then you got an offense that's set for the next 5 to 10 years. And you just have to keep drafting defensive players and keep getting younger on defense. Keep flipping and getting younger and hungrier on defense. And then that's how you win a Super Bowl. That's the way to do it. On Thursday, we talked a lot about matchups in the Diamond. So I'm not going to do a whole lot of that. I kind of made my picks. I also told you that basically the top 4 teams in the Diamond are looking like they're going to win. So that's not going to change anything. So what's important is scoring a lot of points this week to set yourself up for 13 and 14. The last 2 weeks of the year, because week 13 and 14, I'm going to need to win. I made a little defensive play. I've done this back-to-back weeks now. Last week, I picked up a bunch of running backs. To block the guy I was playing because he wasn't playing a running back. This week, I picked up 2 defenses that have great matchups next week. This is the kind of thing you can do as a manager that doesn't involve luck, that you can do as skill and play a factor in fantasy football. I realized that the guy I'm playing next week, Automatic Pickens, he doesn't have a defense. Automatic Pickens, he doesn't have a defense next week. Let's go to week 13. He doesn't have a tight end. So I could have tried to block a tight end, which I was thinking about doing, picking up the best available tight ends, 2 of them, for next week's matchup, and then him having to start some schmuck. But I think that no matter who he picks up a defense, it's a dart throw. And I decided I think it's smarter to block him from starting a defense that can impact us a week. You see how Miami had 21 points this week for me? When a defense does that, it's damn near impossible for the other person to beat you. It really is. That is such a huge, huge obstacle to climb once a defense does that to you in fantasy football. That's basically a quarterback. I got another quarterback here now. I got Justin Fields going, and I got 21 points here. That's 2 quarterbacks, essentially. That's how you score, a $140 and plus, because that happens, right? I don't even need Justin to do shit now because I already got 21 points out of Miami. Like, it's no pressure, Justin. Go out there and just fucking ball. Obviously, he doesn't. Obviously, that's just an analogy. But Miami, they have a good matchup next week against Washington. I don't need a defense. But Automatic Pickens, guess what? Next week, the Bucks play Carolina at home. That's a fucking great matchup. That's one of those matchups they can go off for 20 points. They really could. And Atlanta, guess who they play? They play the worst offense in the NFL, the New York Jets. So I blocked him from getting those guys now, right? So what happens is these 2 come around, and then I wait till Saturday next week. Next week, I wait till Saturday, and then I drop these 2 teams, and I pick up 2 more guys, and I'm going to look to block somebody in week 14. The guy I'm playing in week 14, he's got some buys going on too, and I'm going to try to block him. I know for a fact he's got a tight end who's on a bye, and he's not going to have a tight end, and I'm going to block him. So I'm going to pick up 2 tight ends to go to my bench and try to just make him start, like basically start a guy who is going to score 1 to 3 points, just a wash. That gives me such a huge advantage. Against automatic pickings, he's going to have to pick up some shitty defense. All the defenses are taken. I took the 2 defenses that aren't that good but have great matchups. So that gives me a huge advantage next week, and I need it because Justin Fields is going to be on a bye, and I have really tough matchups. There's a good chance I start Baker Mayfield against Carolina. I know that Carolina's been good against quarterbacks, but they haven't been good against quarterbacks because they're a good defense. They've been good against quarterbacks because they allow the other teams to just run the ball down their throat, and running backs have just been going crazy on them, and quarterbacks haven't had to do anything. A lot of times they don't even have to play in the fourth quarter. They're just running the ball because they're blowing Carolina out. So I think Baker's still a good spot and a good play against Carolina, despite Carolina being a top 10 defense against quarterbacks this year, just based on game scripts, not because they're a good defense. But there is a chance I picks up somebody else. I'm not going to disclose that now. Besides that, I either have Puka against Cleveland, and I have DeAndre Swift against the 49ers. So I have some tough matchups next week. So any little advantage I can get is huge, right? And there's a chance, that I may even start Tampa Bay against Carolina because it's just that big of a play. They're at home. I got to see how Tampa Bay plays this weekend against Indianapolis. If I see them, they're on the road, but if I see them play a little bit better, because they do have a good defense, they're really good against running backs. They had a couple bad games, one specifically against, who was it? Houston, CJ Stroud. But look at all the red they've played. They've played some tough offenses. Buffalo, CJ Stroud, San Francisco. These are teams that have really good offenses. So, it doesn't really look what they did against Tennessee. They gave up 6 points against Tennessee. That's the kind of caliber offense you're going to face when you face Carolina at home. And they're green. When they played Bears earlier in the year, 17 points against Justin Fields. That's strong. They got a touchdown in that game, if you don't remember. Or was it a safety? I think it was a touchdown a little at the end of the game. But the point is that I blocked him, and that's huge to do in fantasy football. Huge, man. These are the little things you can do that can win you matchups, and that is skill. That is you affecting the outcome, because that's all you can do in fantasy, because we don't get a chance to go out there and play the game. We can just play the matchups, play the math, and be a good fantasy manager, and that's what I try to do. Let's see if we have any questions. No, we're not. We have no questions. So we'll keep ranting. I'm going to go into DraftKings and talk about my lineup here in depth. So last week we cashed. We just got a question come in. Please pick 2 to start. Standard. I haven't had a standard league question in a long time. Between Eckler, Mixon, Hunt, and James Cook. Hunt has a nice matchup. You don't have to tell me that. I know my matchups. Ravens D is tough, and they may chew clock. Will the Steelers clamp down on Mixon on the new QB? So, sounds like you're asking a question, but you have your own knowledge of what you want to do. Nathan H. Please pick 2 to start. So Eckler, you're not taking out of your lineup first and foremost. You'd have to be an absolute moron to take Eckler out of your lineup. You're not doing that. They're playing against the Ravens. I get it, but he is their best player on their team. Keenan Allen has a slight argument in that, but overall, the Ravens have given up the run here and there to teams this year. Eckler is a dual threat. You're just not taking him out of your lineup. You retracted your message, but Eckler is a guy you're definitely not taking out of your lineup. And since you retracted your message, I can't see it anymore. I can't see it anymore. I don't even know if you're there still, but I probably would. If I remember, I wouldn't start James Cook against Philly for sure, especially in standard league. He doesn't get touchdown opportunities. Mixon's going against Pittsburgh, and then I don't remember who your last running back is, but I probably would stick with Eckler and Mixon if you're still there. Anyways, to the mom. In my big 777 lineup, we're rolling with Jalen Hurts against Buffalo. I think this game's going to be a shootout. I am not stacking him with anybody. So I think Jalen Hurts is one of the few quarterbacks, along with Justin Fields and Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen for that matter, really, that you don't need to stack him with anybody, especially with the high price tag. Jalen, he can rush in 2 to 3 touchdowns any given week. And when he does that, you don't want him stacked with anybody else. So that's kind of what we're hoping for today. We're hoping for a couple tush pushes, at least one. We're hoping for, 60 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns probably, and then, 4 or 5 touchdown performance, 2 rushing. That's what we're hoping there. I think that game is going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be a shootout. And in a 777, I'm starting to settle into the way I want to build a team. And when I build my team, I always want to go for, in my opinion, is a guaranteed quarterback spot for them to do well. And I think Jalen Hurts is a slam. He's very expensive. I think that you can build a team for cheaper, like with Gardner Minshew or Baker Mayfield, and build a stronger team behind him. But in the 777, I'm pretty stern on playing a quarterback who I know is going to do well, and three running back, because one in the flex that I know who are going to have high volume and good spots. And that is exactly what I did. I went with Pacheco. We got McKinnon for Kansas City, who is not playing this weekend. And I think against Vegas, Crosby's really banged up. They're saying he's going to play, but I think he's banged up. With McKinnon out, I think Pacheco's in position to catch probably 4 or 5 balls today. I think that he'll rush for a touchdown. I think, they're going to be more concerned about Pat Mahomes throwing the ball that Pacheco's going to be able to eat. I think they're going to have a lead. I think the Chiefs defense is going to dominate. So that's why I have Chiefs defense in my lineup as well. And then I started Rachaad White against the Colts. That's been notoriously a good matchup. Any running back against the Colts, any receiver against the Colts have been bad. I think that could be a shootout as well. So you want to get a piece of that. I think Rachaad has just been a slam. He's undervalued on DraftKings. He still is undervalued. He's getting 75% plus snaps. He's the goal line back. He's catching the balls and he's running the ball. He has a touchdown opportunity every single game. I think Rashad is like a must start in DraftKings until they hire his cap to like, in the high 6,000, 7,000 range. That's how good he is. So I will continue to roll out with him. He's a safe play with high volume. Nico Collins, I talked about this already. I think Nico is in prime position to break out today. I think he's overdue for a touchdown. Break, come. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Hey, come here. I think Nico Collins is in prime position to have a breakout game. I predict a touchdown today for sure. I would be willing to bet on it. I just think he's too big. He's too fast. He's too good not to have a breakout game here one of these next couple of games. He's got some tough matchups coming up after this week. They play Cleveland and Baltimore, I believe, back-to-back. Maybe not in that order, but I'm pretty sure that's the two matchups the next 2 weeks. So I think this game is his best opportunity to really break out. I think like I said, he's just too good, man. And they brought his price down. They brought Tank Dell's price up. So people are going to be probably riding the hot hand with Tank Dell. But to be honest with you, any given week, either one of these guys can be the guy that really balls out. Sometimes it'll be both, but more than likely it's going to be one or the other from game to game. And I think Nico is going to do that this week. Moving on to the next receiver, you got Josh Downs, who I am taking a fly on him. Gardner Minshew, that was his favorite target for a while there. Josh Downs got banged up. We're trying to get into this game between the Bucs and the Colts because I predict that being a high-scoring shootout type of game that neither team can really stop each other through the air, specifically for the Bucs. I think Gardner Minshew is actually a nice little dart throw if you want to take a chance and with a lower costing quarterback and then building a stronger team behind him, which I did do in one of these. Not any of the ones you see, but there is a lineup that I did. I think it was one of my free tickets that I did that with Gardner Minshew. But long story short, I think Josh Downs has an opportunity to have high volume against the Bucs, maybe like 7 or 8 catches. If we're lucky, we get a touchdown. He always has an opportunity to catch a bomb. He's one of those kind of players. So I went with my third receiver, Demario Douglas, Pop Douglas. If you follow the show, that you know that I'm really high on Demario. I'm a big believer in Pop. I think the talent is immense. I think that he's a really, really good receiver right now. He's the number one receiver on a bad offense, but we're going against a Giants team, and the Patriots are, that it has been bad against receivers. They've been bad against running backs. They've been bad against quarterbacks. Sometimes the defense plays well, but overall they're a losing team with a losing mentality. It's two bad teams playing each other. And what happens when two bad teams play each other? Two things happen. One, it's a really low scoring game that both teams can't do shit and they're just punting the ball every third down. Or they can't stop each other at all and it's a high scoring shootout. Vegas has a really low total, one of the lowest totals on the slate, but I think they could be wrong about that. I think that this could be one of those kind of games that both teams really can't stop each other. Barkley ends up having a huge game. Pop Douglas has a huge game. Ramondre Stevenson has a huge game. And then some surprise players have a good game. Overall, in a 777 lineup with Josh Downs and Pop Douglas, Demario Douglas, I'm hoping that they're just going to get high volume. So even if they disappoint me and they don't get a touchdown, they both still get 7 catches and 70 yards. That'll be nice for me. That's solid 14 points in PPR. That'll hold me over for their value, getting them both for the low 4,000 range in DraftKings. So I'm happy about that. Same thought process with Njoku, my tight end. He's been extremely high volume. You got a backup quarterback in there who likes to just dump it down to Njoku. They've been scheming him up. They're facing the Broncos, who are 32nd in the NFL, the worst team in the NFL against tight ends. And that says a lot because the reason why they've been bad against quarterbacks and running backs and receivers is because Miami had that 70-point game against them, right? But in that game, tight ends didn't do shit. Miami doesn't really play a tight end. So what happened is that tells you that they just been bad against tight ends, the worst team in the NFL against tight ends all year. But outside of that game, they're just genuinely bad against tight ends. There's not a one game outlier like the Dolphins game that made them be bad against everything else, which is inflated. And this is a true, genuine score here that they've just been the worst team in the NFL against tight ends. I think in DraftKings this week, you have to play Njoku. Even if he disappoints you, it's a slam spot. He's super cheap, and he is essentially Cleveland's favorite target right now. He's been getting a ton of volume, and a 32nd ranked defense against tight ends. I feel like you have to play him. I think that he's going to be highly owned in pretty much all DraftKings, but that's okay because he's cheap. Unless you're going to, stack like a Kincaid like I did in this lineup next to it with Josh Allen, I think Njoku is a great play. I played him in every single one of my lineups here besides this middle one that I played Kincaid. Last but not least, I played Kyren Williams. He's coming back from the IR. This is actually a little bit of a dangerous play by me with him coming back from IR. You don't really know what kind of workload he's going to get. But, I kind of am going to take that into my favor just because I believe that in the 777, I'll be one of the few guys to risk something like that. I think that Jalen Hurts is a guy who, if he blows up, I'm going to win the 777 because I don't think anybody else is going to play Jalen Hurts. I think he's going to be low owned because people like to stack, and it's really difficult to stack Jalen Hurts with A.J. Brown or Devontae and create a good lineup. So you have to play it the way I did. I think Kyren Williams, for the same reason, is going to be low owned because people are going to be a little bit nervous to start him because they're not sure about the workload. But he's going against the Cardinals, who have been one of the worst teams against running backs this year. I personally think he's going to come back and be an 80% snap share guy. I think that he's going to steal some touchdowns away from Stafford like he has all year before he got hurt. I think he's going to have, 5 or 6 catches out of the backfield. I think he's going to run the ball well against the Cardinals. And I think he's a slam this weekend. So that's the lineup I'm going with. This lineup the way I'm going to win the 777 is my 3 running backs perform. And Nico Collins has a big day along with Josh Downs and Pop Douglas, just getting volume. Just get some volume. I don't really need him to get a touchdown. I just need him to get volume. 7 or 8 catches each, which I think they definitely can do. In my $300 lineup, my second highest one that I play every week, I went with Josh Allen as my quarterback. I believe it's the one down here on the bottom right. Yes, bottom right. I went with Josh Allen. I went Derrick Henry against Carolina. I went with Bree. Did you get this for me? Bree, is this for me? Come here. Is this for me? Go right there. You're my guest today. Go sit down. Come sit down. Come on. Good girl. Lay down. Lay down. You're my guest. So I went with Derrick Henry against Carolina. I think he's an absolute slam. I think he's going to be highly owned. I don't think it's a bad thing to fade him just because he really only does get 50% snaps, it seems like. I think he'll get more against Carolina when they really want to run the ball and win this game and get a dub under their belt. But I don't know, man. Overall, I prefer to fade him, but I think that he is in a slam spot this weekend against Carolina. If there's any week that he's going to blow up, it's going to be this week. He could be one of those 200-yard games, to be honest with you. I got Josh Allen in this lineup against Philadelphia's defense. I think it's going to be high scoring. And, I paired him up with Shakir for really cheap just so I can build a better lineup outside of him. I kept Pacheco in my lineup, who I think is the strongest play of the weekend this weekend without Williams playing, or I'm sorry, McKinnon playing for Kansas City. I think Pacheco is going to get more snaps and more catches in this game. I think he's going to be essentially a 3-down horse dog in this game, outside of Clyde Edwards-Helaire possibly spelling him here and there. But Pacheco's a slam. I'm playing him in every lineup. Mike Evans against Indianapolis is an extremely strong play. It's hard to get him in your lineup at 7,700, but if you can find a way, get him in there. I like Mike Evans a lot. I got Pop Douglas in almost every single one of my lineups against the Giants. I just think they're bad against receivers, and I think he has an opportunity if Zappe plays, who I'm hoping Zappe plays. I think he's just in a prime spot to have his first touchdown of his career. He's a punt returner too, so he can always take a punt return to the house, which is a possibility. And, he's a high volume catch guy. He plays slot and the outside. I think he's due for a massive game here. And I don't see why it wouldn't happen in this game. Like I said, we went with Shakir paired with Josh Allen. Maybe I'm just hoping, he gets some volume. He's getting 70% plus snaps right now. In theory, you're hoping possibly that the Eagles focus in on trying to stop Stephon Diggs, and Shakir just eats in this game, him and Kincaid. I got Njoku and Kyren Williams in the Chiefs defense. That's a trend here for most of my lineups. I'm not going to talk much more about that. So, Bree, do you have anything to say? You sleepy? You going night-night? Okay. I'm going to take a piss, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about the pick of the week. Welcome to Fantasy Football Aces. This is my guest, Bree. All right, so moving on to the pick of the week. I'm going to be real transparent here and say that the last 6 or 7 weeks, I've been extremely hot. Been winning all my plays, up quite a bit. DraftKings cashed last week as well. Kind of finding my mode in that. My lineup for my 777 isn't ideal. I actually have found that I want to play receivers that are undervalued, that have potential to have number one receiver kind of days instead of playing out flyers. I think Demario Douglas and Josh Downs are just flyers this weekend, opposed to them being guys that can be true number one receivers on the day, which sucks, but it is what it is because I went with the more expensive Jalen Hurts. With that being said, my pick of the week was San Fran this past week. This week. They played on Thursday night, Thanksgiving. I don't want to limit. I haven't, and I don't want to limit myself just to picking a Sunday game for you guys every week. I do want to have the whole slate available to me, which includes a Monday and Thursday night, or Friday or Saturday when those start happening. And this week, my pick of the week was San Francisco, which cashed. It was a big win for me. With that being said, there is times that I'm going to have two picks. And this week, this isn't a slam play, but this is definitely a play that I really like. And that is the Philadelphia Eagles -3 against the Bills. Now, the reason why I like this so much is because Philly's at home. Buffalo, they're in a really desperate spot. You know, they just fired their offensive coordinator. This is going to be the first week, or the second week, I should say. Is it the first or the second? I forget if it's the first or second week off of Ken Dorsey. But regardless, they're going on the road against Philly. Philly's been bad against receivers this year and quarterbacks, essentially. You know, Sam Howell lit them up. A lot of teams have lit them up. But you saw they played much better against the Chiefs. I'd say that the Bills' passing attack is a lot better than the Chiefs is. But I think that the Eagles' defense is starting to get a little bit more healthy, specifically in the secondary. I think that, oh, wow, who's out here? Levante David out, Jamil Dean out. Wow. So that's going to be bad for the Bucs defense. I definitely won't start them against Carolina next week with those guys out. And I think the Eagles, it's going to be a little bit of a shootout. I think the Buffalo Bills are going to be able to score quite a bit. As you've seen in a few of my lineups, I got Josh Allen in my lineups. But overall, in a 3-point spread, I am not afraid to take a team who I think is going to win the game and not worry about the spread. It's very rare that a team wins by 1 or 2 points. It does happen, but it doesn't happen very often. They usually win by 3 or more. I'd be really curious to know the percentage on that, actually. But teams don't win by 1 or 2 very often, because in football, you know, scores come in 3, 6, 7, and 8-point increments. So most of the time, you're going to win by 3 or more. It's just the way football is, especially because teams go for 2 to try to get into those spots where they're down 3 or whatever. The way it happens, obviously, is you score 7, the other team scores 2 field goals, then you score another 7, and then they score a touchdown. They go for 2 to try to tie you, and they don't get it. Now they're down 2, and then the game just kind of goes like that, and you end up winning by 1 or 2. But it just doesn't happen very often. And in my opinion, Philadelphia is going to be absolutely dominant on both sides of the ball in the trenches against the Buffalo Bills. I think that there's going to be no running for Buffalo. James Cook and company are going to get completely locked up. Latavius Murray. And I think that Josh Allen is going to be slinging. But he's going to throw some interceptions like he always does, inevitably. He's going to throw some picks. The Eagles are going to play coverage on him, send 4-man rush. I think that Hassan Reddick and company, those guys are going to, play smart, play their lanes. They're going to play similar to the way they played Dak Prescott. They already have seen this movie before with CeeDee Lamb and Dak. It's the same thing with Josh Allen and Diggs. They're built for this kind of thing. I would say Dallas has a better offense than the Buffalo Bills at this point in time in the year. The difference is the Bills do not have a defense like the Cowboys. I think that the Eagles are going to be able to control the game. They're going to be able to run the ball with DeAndre Swift. They're going to have a really high time of possession, keeping the ball out of Josh Allen's hands. I think that I don't think that the Buffalo Bills can stop the Eagles on the ground or through the air. I think A.J. Brown is going to be in without Tre'Davious White. And without Milano, the middle linebacker for Buffalo, I just don't think that there's any shot in hell that they can stop the Eagles anyway. They can't stop them through the air or the run. I think that Jalen Hurts is going to have a huge game. I think Swift can possibly have a huge game, vice versa, depending on if they get rushing touchdowns or passing. And I think that A.J. Brown and Devontae are going to do what they want in this week. I don't see any way that a team like Buffalo, who is just not, without Milano and Tre'Davious White, they just haven't been the playoff team that we're used to seeing. On the road in a desperate spot against Philadelphia, I know they're desperate, but Philly's going to be too much, man. They just have been too much for most teams this year. They've won a lot of close games, but that's the key, is they won. They won a lot of close games. They're just a top 3 offensive line in the NFL, a top 3 defensive line in the NFL. When you're that good in the trenches, it's very difficult to lose. I mean, I think Philadelphia is a slam spot this weekend, guys. I just do. I think they're a slam spot. I think that line is at 3 points is a little low too. I get it though. That's kind of the similar line they had against Dallas. I think that, that's just big respect to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, but they're going to Philly, man. It's loud in Philadelphia. I was there against the Cowboys. I went to that game, and my pick of the week was Philly against Dallas that week. And to be honest with you, now looking at it, that was way more scary than this game. Dallas is playing great football. I don't think Buffalo's playing their best right now. Who's Denver playing? I want to get a little bit closer to 1 o'clock, just because I do enjoy doing this and getting closer to the game. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the other games, just because I don't have a guest today. Colts, Buccaneers. No, I've kind of already hit on all this stuff, man. So I'm not going to really do that. I think that being on here for a strong 50 minutes without a guest, having talked about DraftKings and my pick of the week now, yeah, I'm good for today, man. I'm out of here. I haven't had any questions, so I'm gonna get out of here. Peace out, y'all.